Hello, everyone. Welcome. How are you doing? We have our next workshop starting just now, and we have Eric, one of the co-founders of Livepeer, here to talk to us today about how Web3 video is quietly disrupting incumbents. Let me just quickly introduce myself. I'm Jamie. I'm the program manager for the next video build. And I'll be here throughout the next 4 weeks, running the workshops and offering support and one-on-one calls. So feel free to book a call in with me if that's helpful to you. We will drop some links soon to help you find the hacker pack and various other bits of information that will help you in this hackathon. Just want to firstly welcome Eric, who's going to be doing this workshop for us today. So welcome, Eric. How are you doing?
Thank you, Jamie. Thanks for the introduction, and thanks everyone for being here today. I know there's some distraction in the market today, so I really appreciate everybody taking the time and being here and being excited about the hackathon. I certainly am.
Awesome, thank you. Just conscious of time, so I will let you take things away. So over to you.
All right, sounds good. Cool. Well, welcome to I think the second or third workshop at this point for this next video hackathon. My name is Eric Tang. I'm the co-founder and CTO at Livepeer, and I'm really excited to be doing this. A little bit background about myself. I've been working in the crypto space for about five years, going on 6 at this point. We started Livepeer about 5 years ago, and prior to that, I was working pretty closely with the Ethereum team. And before that, I was working in consumer tech, and this is something that I want to talk a little bit about today, right? Because we're here at the next video hackathon, and video streaming is a very consumer-centric idea, right? About 80% of all the internet's traffic is video. And every day we find ourselves watching video. A lot of times we're using these interesting applications. However, we know that video in Web3 is still kind of a new idea, right? So what's happening right now? How is Web3 video going to really disrupt these Web2 incumbents like YouTube, like Twitch, like Facebook, where they just seem so big and almost untouchable, right? I've been thinking about this problem for quite a long time. A little bit about my previous experience before Livepeer and jumping into the Web3 world. I was working on this application called Wildcard. We created this interesting mobile app, kind of on the back of a lot of the social platforms like a Twitter or Facebook or even Google, and kind of allowing publisher to publish into Wildcard and then publishing and then republish that video, those posts into these other social platforms. This app was quite successful in 2015. It was one of the best apps in the App Store. However, because it was built on the back of these centralized platforms, eventually these platforms started to close down their APIs and kind of taking the opportunity away from the application developers that are building on these platforms. So so even ever since then, I've always thought about this platform risk as one of the biggest problems in our industry, right? And I've been thinking about why this is happening, and I think this is really why, right? So this is a chart for what's happening in the online advertising world. We see that in the last 20 years, online advertising has grown by about 25x, right? So it grew from $8 billion in 2000 of global revenue to almost $190 billion of global revenue last year. And you might say, oh, that's a good thing, right? Like, revenue is growing, everyone should be happy. But if you dig in a little deeper, you realize that the reason this revenue is growing is because of this surveillance capitalism, right? Where every single one of our actions is being tracked online, is being bundled, is being kept in centralized databases, and is being sold off to advertisers who are willing to have the highest bid for our attention, right? And because this is such a high incentive for applications, and especially consumer applications, to do it this way. Every consumer application is doing everything that they can to try to keep our attention, to then bundle it up and sell it as advertising revenue. And that's the fundamental issue, right? And we see that happen with the last 20 years of Google search. Google has got it more and more ads into that interface, until now it's half of the real estate is ads, right? And you see that happen with any popular and useful consumer tool. So Web3 has this opportunity to really disrupt this model, right? And there's been attempts that has happened ever since almost the beginning of Web3, right? So here are some interesting attempts that I've seen in the past. Steemit was probably came out in 2017. It was its own blockchain. It's a Web3 version of kind of a Reddit. Pipith was the first Web3 version of Twitter. And People was kind of the first Web3 version of TikTok, right? So people have been, builders have been trying for a while to build Web3 based social applications, but they've always run into challenges, either because the infrastructure was not ready yet, or the incentive mechanism was not correct, right? So not all the lessons have been learned. However, I do think that today, given where we are in Web3, we do have the perfect opportunity. It is finally the right time for us to build these massively successful social applications that are consumer facing. And the reason is because the infrastructure is here, finally scalable. We have layer 2 Ethereum working really well. We have the indexing layers working, data indexing layer like the graph working really well. We have decentralized storage solutions like IPFS and Arweave that's working really well. And we're starting to learn as a community about what actually is unique in Web3, like what unique value Web3 can give to an everyday user that other applications cannot, right? So for me, it really boils down to these 4 different areas: permissionless crowdfunding, decentralized financial instruments, right? So that means permissionless crowdfunding means anybody from anywhere around the world can gather resources to go achieve a goal, right? A decentralized financial instruments is anybody from around the world can create a financial instrument that help coordinate some behavior, right? Third one is provable digital ownership. This means for the first time ever, a digital asset can be unique and uniquely represented on chain, and we have evidence that shows the ownership of that digital asset, right? Until that, any digital asset can be copied, and therefore it's very hard for them to have value. And the fourth one is collective global coordination, right? We have the smart contract that we're able to use to coordinate human behaviors across the globe without people needing to know each other, right? And those are really, really powerful mechanisms. If I have to put these mechanisms into kind of the respective 3-letter words, it would be ICO, right, for permissionless crowdfunding, DeFi for decentralized financial instruments, NFT for provable digital ownership, and DAO for collective global coordination, right? So with these interesting mechanisms, I think we can start to chart kind of how things are, how Web3 applications and how Web3 video applications can actually start to disrupt Web2 applications. So there are a few pieces of advice that I would give for the hackers in the audience, right? One is have this idea of come for the tools and stay for the network, right? So this is a famous saying in Silicon Valley, and this is a really true lesson that's learned over time of how to build a network, whether it's a social network or any other network, right? And the idea is you want to start from a place where you're building something that's valuable for an individual, so that tool becomes so that people come and use the tool. But then as they're using the tool, they discover a community from within while they're using the tool, and then from there a network emerges, right? A good example is Instagram. I think we all know Instagram. Instagram started out as an app called Bourbon. It was kind of a journaling app, right? Over time, they realized that the most popular feature in Bourbon was the ability for people to create a filter on their photo, right? So apply some a filter that makes the photo look maybe a little retro, maybe look color scheme look cool, right? And that was the most popular thing. And they decided to create a tool all around that feature, and that really caught on because that was when cell phone cameras first became a really popular thing. And as a result, people signed up in order to apply filters on their photos, and Instagram over time added the ability for people to follow each other, and thus created a really powerful social network that then eventually got acquired by Facebook. Sadly, that it couldn't exist as its own project, but I think in the Web3 world, if something like that existed, it will actually continue to stay decentralized and continue to provide more and more value for users without too much misaligned incentives, right? The second advice is around using Web2 platforms as distribution channels, right? And this is a pretty practical thing because for a Web3 application to be competitive, it's going to be really hard to make the case for users that come and use their application because their content will be seen by others, right? Because applications like YouTube have already amassed a huge audience, and they have the ability to push certain content to an audience. So that's always the distribution channel. However, we now have tools in Web3 that allows us to build our applications alongside of that distribution channel, so we can create other value propositions to users. For example, Livepeer was used to stream DevCon, which is the biggest Ethereum conference in last month, right? And DevCon was streamed on Livepeer, and at the same time, Livepeer restreamed that live stream to YouTube, right? So now we have the live stream happening on both platforms. The end result was that about 40% of the audience out of the 60,000 people around the world that watched the video, 40% watched on the Ethereum homepage, and about 60% watched on YouTube. Now, this is a pretty interesting number because we're starting to see that shift to happen, right? And it was also helpful for the Ethereum Foundation to have their content living on YouTube to be able to get those eyeballs, because that's important. However, they are now also able to host their own platform, create their own video experiences for the viewers, and that leaves opportunities like allowing users to authenticate their wallets, right? Airdropping a NFT to the users who are engaging with the content and watching the content, or building just more customizable, unique features that something like a YouTube would not be able to give. Right? So that's what I mean by building the platform alongside of the Web2 platform, and even considering that as a part of the user experience for your application. The third one is, I think, that this is where Web3 really shines, right? Which is the idea of being able to give clear transparency on value flow, right? In Web2, if you are a creator on YouTube, you have no idea how much money YouTube is making off of your content, right? You only know that if you got enough eyeballs at the end of the month, you may get a check, right? You have no idea what the what your take is, right? How much has been made and how much has been shared with you, and that creates just natural distrust in the platform, right? From the users, and that's misalignment for the users. And we have seen over and over again that these platforms have abused that power and treated users unequally. And so in Web3, because all the transactions are transparent on the blockchain, we now have the opportunity to use kind of radical transparency to really earn the user's trusts. And that's a big deal because trust is kind of the foundation of a person deciding to use an application, and that cannot be overlooked. So so based on that last piece of advice, right, I want to highlight that there's actually already a lot of interesting problems in Web3. So as we're building Web3 centric applications, I think it's interesting to think about how to solve Web3 centric problems, right? So there already is a built-in audience for what you're trying to do, right? For example, these are some Web3 centric problems, right? DAOs need a place to organize their content. Right now, if you're starting a DAO, your content is kind of all over the place, right? People are uploading them to YouTube. People are using Medium to write their blog posts and things like that. But there's not really not really a home for the DAO to be able to organize all of their content. So we're starting to see applications get at that problem, and I think the applications that really do a good job at that will succeed in Web3. And second is related to that is Web3 content is also fragmented, right? We talked about they live in different places, but also it's very unclear for someone to know what are high quality content. Where can I find Web3 content that's actually that actually caters to my interest, right? So this layer of curation can become really important, especially with incentive design that's built in. And that kind of leads us to the next point, right? Incentive design is one of the superpowers in Web3. We're able to create smart contracts that actually kind of help us bridge the gap of this cold start problem, where when there's not a lot of users on the platform, it's not that much valuable. But the cost of acquiring users is really high. So how do you get past that phase? Well, we have mechanisms where we can incentivize and reward early users in these platforms so that it attracts early adopters. And the more people we attract, the bigger the community becomes and the more valuable the application becomes. And that helps bridge that gap, right? And if we can actually build these applications for the existing built-in already Web3 communities, well, we already have a set of users that we can tap into, right? So I want to highlight some opportunities here. One is to build a Web3 Zoom. As we know, all DAOs are using Zooms at all times, right? We need to communicate, and Web3 is a very global movement, so therefore people need to be able to talk to each other without being in the same location. So video conferencing is a really interesting idea. The second is build a Web3 native video CMS, right? Content management system. So in the Web2 world, we have WordPress. WordPress accounts for a huge percentage of all the websites on the internet, right? But WordPress requires self-hosting, right? It requires it's built in a very old Web2 centric paradigm. I think the fact that we're in Web3 right now, we're building tools for Web3 right now, there's an interesting opportunity for someone to build a Web3 native video CMS. So data on the blockchain can be imported into the CMS, and it can expose all the interesting Web3 features like wallet authentication and token mechanisms. Third is around creating a curation DAO, right? So this is the idea of creating a DAO with incentives built in that that can help curate the high quality content in Web3 and have that be discoverable to users, right? And I think we can do all of these things with the aim of helping long tail creators make money. And long tail creators basically means the 99% of the users who are on the video creators who are on YouTube, who are not Mr. Beast, who are not getting all these audience, right? And that's most of the creators on YouTube right now. It takes about 1 to 2 years of consistent content making before you can get any kind of exposure and make any kind of real money to sustain your living, and so anybody who's in that 1 to 2 year journey is really struggling to try to find a way to make money. And I think in Web3 we have all these new opportunities to really build tools that appeals to those kind of creators. And there's a much bigger audience of those type of creators than the really successful ones. So the title of this talk is how Web3 video is quietly disrupting, right? So even though we might not have heard a lot of these applications, they're actually being built today. So I want to walk through a few of them. One I want to highlight is Huddle, right? Huddle is building a version of the Web3 Zoom, right? So Huddle allows a user to log in with their wallet. They allow users to use their NFTs in their wallet as avatars, right? And a lot of NFT communities are starting to use this tool because they're able to kind of participate semi-anonymously. They're able to token gate their video meetings. And of course, here they're able to then rebroadcast that video meeting to a bigger audience using Livepeer. Next example I want to show is LensTube. So this is a YouTube-looking application that's built using Lens and Livepeer, right? So the Lens protocol in this case is used for providing kind of social profiles and social networking and social graph. But in here, when someone's making a video-based post, they're using Livepeer to make sure that video is actually streamable, right? But it's not just a YouTube-looking application. They actually in there have interesting mechanisms of, for example, token gating the video content, right? So you need to buy an NFT, or you need to be a subscriber to the channel in order to watch the content. Or there's micropayment tipping that's built in, right? So these are all interesting experiments in Web3 that start to attack that using these Web3 centric value props. Another application is the 402. The 402 is targeting musicians who are now already streaming their concerts, virtual concerts on Twitch, right? This is really interesting because in the 402, if you're a musician, you can sell tickets for your virtual concerts as NFTs, right? And from that after, you can continue to do drops for more drops for the audience who have bought your NFT ticket to your concert, right? And this is actually working fantastically well for the musicians that are they're doing shows here. They'll make $500 to $1,000 per show, and that is that you can probably make that by doing shows for a whole month on Twitch, right? So we see that this is already working. It's creating a more engaged community for the musicians. Beam is another one that's a pretty events focused. DAOs or Web3 centric organizations can use Beam to do their events and live stream on the platform. They have a very well built both mobile and desktop app, which is a huge value add. And the last Bonfire is a creator tool that allows the creator to kind of build their own fan base, fan club page, right? So it's crypto centric. When the fans sign up, the creator get to know their fans' crypto wallet, right? And then they can use a number of different types of Web3 based mechanisms, whether it's creating NFTs or doing airdrops or creating bounties for their community, even create a community treasury, right? To really turn a passive experience of following someone on something like YouTube or Twitch to an active experience where a community is actually actively engaging with the creator, and the creator has a tool to respond and engage back, right? So we see this this is a lot of interesting behavior happening here. And lastly, StreamETH is an application that's publicly good in the Ethereum ecosystem. It's a joint project by the Ethereum Foundation and Livepeer, and it's created so that events organizers in the Web3 space, in the Ethereum space, can use this tool to live stream their content or to host their recorded content after the live stream. For example, DEF CON was streamed using StreamETH. So why do I point out all these video use cases? Well, I come back to that point that video is 80% of all the content on the internet today, right? And why is that? It's because video is the most engaging and most powerful medium of communication that we have. Everybody's watching a video right now of me speaking, right? This is a much better format than going to read an article, me writing an article and you reading it. And it's more engaging, it's more fun, and I think this is a really important tool for Web3 to reach the everyday users, right? For us to onboard the next million, the next 10 million users into Web3. I want to briefly just give an overview of the Web3 stack here, right? We have the layer 1 and layer 2 blockchain solutions that kind of hold the smart contracts. We have video processing, which is Livepeer, and video delivery, which is also Livepeer. We have decentralized storage, which is IPFS and Arweave, right? Livepeer works very nicely with these decentralized storage solutions, allowing anyone who kind of puts video files into these storage solutions to make those files all of a sudden streamable to a global audience, right? And Livepeer will take care of all the transcoding and delivery and optimization behind the scenes. And then we have kind of indexing and query tools, whether it's the Graph or Lens protocol, that helps us kind of aggregate data in some way that then application developers can use to build interesting user experiences. And then of course we have the identity wallet and things like that. Yeah, so I want to take pause here and see, is there any before I take a pause, I just want to give a quick shout out to Livepeer Studio. So if you're here building an application, I would definitely check out Livepeer Studio. And the other thing that I would do is to go to Livepeer.js, which is the developer tool that we recently created to really help developers get started building applications quickly. Here you can see, it's at livepeerjs.org. And here you can see kind of examples on how to embed a video player that's created by Livepeer so that you can quickly see a video, right, that you've uploaded into Livepeer using the API. So I think someone, an experienced developer with React especially can build a video application within 30 minutes to an hour just by going through these guides and using this tool. So I would definitely recommend checking this out. Yeah, that's it. I want to see if anyone right now have any questions.
Thank you so much, Eric, for the presentation. It was super interesting. Do we have time for a few questions?
Yeah, I think we can have 35 minutes for questions.
Awesome. Well, drop your questions in the chat, guys. I see there's already one in there from earlier from Fernando.
Right. So how do you censure when Then in Web3, if you know something legal is being done. Yeah. So that's a good question. So I would say I'm guessing this question is really about content moderation, right? How do you keep your application safe, and how do you make sure your users can won't be exposed to harmful content? I think this really comes down to that curation point. A good consumer app should have a good curation layer so that in good high quality content is exposed to users, and harmful content is hidden or completely taken away from users. Livepeer has built certain content moderation tools. For example, if Livepeer gets a DMCA take, that is in Livepeer Studio, right? Livepeer Studio is kind of the hosted gateway service for the Livepeer network. So for example, if Livepeer Studio gets a DMCA takedown of illegal content, copyrighted content, then Livepeer Studio would kind of remove access of that content from Livepeer Studio users. Yeah.
So my question there was like, is there like a legal point of view? You create an app, and this app is being misused, right, to upload or stream content using Web3 protocols. As a creator, you can be legally tied to it, or Livepeer per se also.
Yeah. So I think the position here is when it comes to like legal liability, it really gets back to that idea of like, is the infrastructure legally liable, or is the user or the application legally liable, right? I think we're still very much seeing this play out in the bigger Web3 space. Excuse me.
No, because you can have this person from Texas who is okay for them to show their guns and all that stuff, but then if someone overseas is streaming this, then it may be perceived as a different situation, for example.
That's right. Yeah. So for that kind of so that's where I think content moderation and content curation really comes in, right? I think Web3 very much needs that layer right now, and someone who does a good job there, and this can be a really great opportunity for them. So I think moderation and curation are kind of the two angles where you can attack this problem of creating a safe environment and a high quality content environment for your users.
Is there any tags you can apply to a stream, or tools as it happening to do filtering? How I work with other type of live streams, and then like sometimes in TV, the lives, when the word F is going to be said, automatically you're gonna listen beep without nothing. It's AI doing it, right? So how is that the status of that type of technology, or how could the curation take place?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's been a number of interesting experiments that have happened in the Livepeer ecosystem around that. One being, like exactly like you said, like people have created AI algorithms that run alongside of the transcoding process. So as the video is being processed, there's also kind of AI mechanisms, AI algorithms that are running and detecting things that that can be customized, right? And then the kind of the metadata is passed back with the video itself, and the developers can decide certain types of content that should be filtered out.
Anything on that topic that we can apply around Livepeer, or?
Yeah, absolutely. That's been happening in the Livepeer space. If you're interested in working on that problem, definitely come into our Discord and share your ideas. We'd love to see that.
Do we have time for any more questions, or would you like to wrap up this?
So yeah, let's wrap up this conversation. I want to say that the Livepeer Discord is always open, and I see the last question. I'll answer the last one, and then we'll wrap it up. Could Livepeer serve as a CMS for a Netflix-like structure instead of a closed-off platform, another protocol on top of Livepeer protocol that could serve as a first stop of distribution. Yeah, I think that's the type of ideas that we're looking for for builders in this hackathon to work on, right? The Livepeer network itself is video infrastructure, and then there's the Livepeer Studio product that's a hosted gateway service for that infrastructure, right? So CM, when I kind of talked about this idea of a Web3 centric CMS, right? And I think that's the perfect idea to build here in this hackathon, where you can really show, kind of show the power of Web3 video and give users an experience that, they can create an application without being a developer. Yeah, for any further questions, I would really recommend joining the Livepeer Discord and going to going to the general channel, or going to I think we actually created a channel for this hackathon, so going to that channel to ask your questions. I'm really looking forward to working with you guys throughout this hackathon.
Awesome, thank you, Eric, for your time and for the great presentation. We really appreciate having you. Just do you have any sort of closing comments before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I think my closing comment is that share your ideas with us. If you're thinking about if you're thinking about anything, and if you're not sure, let us know how we can help. We really want to see you hackers succeed in this hackathon, and we're looking forward to kind of help you every step along the way.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Eric, for coming in. We hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.